Hey everybody, I'm Jules. Welcome to my channel, Home and Hearth with Jules. I'm gonna bake some banana bread today. But since this is my first content on YouTube, I wanted to introduce myself and tell you what I'm all about. I've been involved in YouTube for about 3 years, but I've never put out any of my own content. I love to bake, I love to cook. Been cooking and baking and sewing for about 50 years. That's the truth of it. So come along with me and we will have some more content coming. If there's anything particular you might be interested in seeing me bake or cook or sew or crafts, whatever, just let me know. And we're gonna incorporate it into my channel, Home and Hearth with Jules. So let's get busy. So today we're doing banana bread. And what we're gonna do is we started off with mashing bananas. So you're gonna need about 3 medium-sized bananas. And I'm using a good old-fashioned potato masher. These are my favorite. I don't like the little round ones with little round holes. They don't work as well. But I'm mashing 3 bananas. You need about a cup of mashed bananas. And when you do your bananas, they need to be ripe. So they need to have spots on them. The darker the better, because they're gonna be sweeter. So if you don't have ripe bananas and you wanna make banana bread, you can take the bananas and you can put them in the oven at 300. You peel them, put them in the oven at 300, and they will bake and be nice and soft and ready for the banana bread. So we're gonna go ahead and finish mashing this. You don't have to do it super. It's okay if there's a little bit of chunks in there, because that gives the bread a little bit more texture. So we're gonna stop there. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to start with our wet ingredients when I start the mixing process, and then we'll add the dry to it. But before we add the dry, what I wanna do is take and put my dry ingredients all together. So in here, what I have is, I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, that pink stuff there, that's Himalayan sea salt. And then I have 1.5 teaspoons also of some cinnamon. So I'm just gonna put that in with my flour. And just a helpful hint, your flour, you don't wanna pack it tightly. You want it, when you measure it, you wanna fluff the flour. Say that fast 5 times. Fluff the flour before you measure it, because then it won't pack, and it turns out it'll be a lighter, softer bread instead of something too dense. And so you definitely wanna do that. And so I'm just gently turning this and mixing it by hand with a fork. You can use a spoon, it doesn't matter. And then I have 2 cups of flour in here. So that was 2 cups of flour with and I'll put the ingredients below in the information section. And then I also have, so you can use all white sugar, all brown sugar, or you can mix them. So I decided to mix them. I did 1/2 cup of white sugar, granulated sugar, and I'm using 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Light brown sugar, dark brown sugar, it doesn't matter. You can use all brown sugar if you want, or all white sugar if you want. It's your bread, you do it how you wanna do it. So we're gonna go ahead and mix this and try to get that all incorporated with all the dry ingredients here. And then we're gonna go ahead and start putting the wet ingredients together, and then we'll add the dry into that. And it should turn out just fine. So here we have a stick of butter. That's a half a cup. So what you wanna do is you wanna put that in your mixing bowl. And you want to add the 3 mashed bananas. And you can use a spoon. And the reason I'm not using a mixer is because if you use a mixer, it can overbeat the batter. And if you overbeat the batter, then it's gonna end up turning out dense and heavy. So you don't want that. You want it to be light and fluffy. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix the butter in. You can beat the butter first. I left the butter out today so that it would get soft. So it's at room temperature. So you just wanna beat this together. You can also mix your butter with your sugar first and then add the bananas. But either way, it turns out fine. You'll be all right. And so I'm gonna add, here we have a 1/4 cup of buttermilk. Now, if you don't have buttermilk, which I didn't, you can take regular milk and you can just add a teaspoon or so, a little bit less for this amount of milk. So maybe 1/2 teaspoon of vinegar, white vinegar. I used apple cider vinegar because that's what I had. Or you can use lemon juice and let it sit for a few minutes and it'll curdle the milk so that it makes a buttermilk. Or you can use sour cream, that works too. So we're gonna go ahead and add that. Now, after I do this, I'm gonna go ahead and beat the eggs. So here we have, oops, that's loud, sorry. So we're gonna go ahead and set this aside for a minute. And I'm gonna go ahead and take the 2 eggs. And the reason why I beat the eggs first is so that they're incorporated already into one mix. And so you don't have like little streaks of white albumin, you know, the egg white. You want the egg white mixed with the yolk. You don't wanna have little streaks of, and again, we don't wanna overbeat the batter. So we wanna go ahead and make sure that we incorporate this well so that we're not looking at white streaks in our banana bread of egg white. Just go ahead and beat those pretty good. And then that should do. And I'm gonna go ahead and add those. And we're gonna go ahead, and that was 2 eggs, of course. And we're gonna go ahead and add a teaspoon of vanilla. So all of our wet ingredients are in here now. And you're gonna have little chunks of butter, but that's okay, because it's gonna cook in with the cook. So here I'm gonna add my dry ingredients a little bit at a time and mix a little bit. You can see that, I guess. And a little bit more. And the last of it. Happens to me every time. I think you all know what I'm talking about there. So you can use all-purpose flour with this. That was 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And again, I mixed all of the other dry ingredients in with that. You can do it both ways as far as the butter goes. Sometimes it works a little better if you do the butter with the sugars. But either way will work. So now I'm gonna add a cup of chopped nuts. You can add so many different things to this banana bread. So for Christmas, I add maraschino cherries, diced or sliced, and then I will add a cup of chocolate chips. That is my son's favorite Christmas bread. And I don't always use nuts. These are pecans. They're a little more agreeable for like kids or people that aren't fond of walnuts. You can also toast them first if you want. You don't have to, but they're just unsalted pecans, but you don't have to put them, that's optional. So I'm gonna go ahead and put those in. But you can add chocolate chips. You can add peanut butter and chocolate chips and make like a Reese's peanut butter with nuts in it, you know. Milk chocolate chips are good. You can use dark chocolate chips. It really doesn't matter. So here we are. We have our mix all ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch to a spatula so I can make sure I get it all out into the pan. And I went ahead and prepared a cake pan. And you could do muffins with this as well, by the way. But I have this cake pan, loaf pan, excuse me, bread loaf pan. And you can spray it with spray, or you can grease and flour it with butter or Crisco. I just use the spray, and then I put in a parchment paper, because if you leave the little sides like this, it lifts the bread out really easy, and it's really a nice little trick to know. So we're gonna go ahead and get this put into our pan. You can even do mini loaves, like, and give them away as gifts for the holidays or just for friends. However you want to do that, you can do that. And then we have the oven preheating at 350. Now this can take anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour to bake. So you want to make sure you preheat that oven and let it do its thing for a good 10-15 minutes so that you know it's ready. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that and spread it out. And then I'm going to go ahead and get this in the oven. And then I'll see you back here in about an hour when I take it out so I can show you some banana bread. See you later. So here's our banana bread. It's done. We're gonna let it rest in the pan for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna take it out of the pan and let it rest on the rack. Then we're gonna cut some and we're gonna share it with everybody. So it'll be a few more minutes. I'll be right back. So here we have the banana bread that just lifts right out of the pan because of the parchment paper. And you can just move the pan out of the way and let it cool on a cooling rack. And it will cool just fine. So we're gonna let it cool for a minute and then we'll slice a piece and we'll enjoy some banana bread. So our banana bread is all done. It looks beautiful, it has a beautiful rise and it cracked like it usually does. Which is a good rise there. You don't want a flat, heavy, dense banana bread. You want it to be light and fluffy. So we're gonna go ahead and slice a couple pieces. You wanna use a serrated edge knife for this. It's still a little bit warm for cutting, but we're just wanting to get the video done. So here we go. Here's our banana bread. Isn't that pretty? Look at that. We're gonna go ahead and stick some on a plate here. And we're gonna go ahead and put some butter on it. Because I love it with butter on it. I gotta have butter on my hot banana bread, right? Look at that melt, just fresh out of the oven. So delicious. My granddaughter came down and said, "Something smells yummy." And here we have it. Banana bread. Cup of coffee, yummy goodness, comfort food all the way. Enjoy.